On June 14th, there's a full moon in Sagittarius making a sextile to Saturn and a square to Neptune. This means there's an opportunity for growth and spiritual connection. What does that mean for you? That's what we're going to talk about. Hi, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the full moon. It falls on June 14th. It's at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. We're going to do a short overview, and then we're going to go sign by sign. Now, this full moon at 23 degrees of Sagittarius is quite close to the galactic center. Now, officially right now, the galactic center is at about 27 degrees of Sagittarius. It moves 1 degree every 72 years, and this points us to the center of our galaxy, and that is a metaphor for the source of all knowledge, the source of all the answers that you're looking for. Of course, to find out the information you're looking for, you have to ask the right question, and we've talked a lot about asking the right question on this channel. It is about finding the way to ask which unlocks the information for you. Tim Ferriss did an interesting PDF on this, and I will link I'll put a link in the description. But a big key to your future success lies in the questions you are asking yourself. So if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're trying things and that nothing is working, then look at asking different questions. Now, this full moon makes a sextile to Saturn and a square to Neptune, and this combination from a lower vibration standpoint would mean anxiety, feeling stress, feeling like the world is dissolving away. But from a higher vibration, the energy is quite different. Of course, since you're watching this channel, you do already operate on a higher vibration because you are looking for answers and you are looking for the spiritual way through. So when we look at this from a higher vibration, what we're seeing is the Neptune is about envisioning a plan, envisioning something, and then the Saturn gives you the ability to build that thing. Now, from a lower vibration, people can get caught up in the idea that nothing's going to change and everything is going to remain as it is. But from a higher vibration, we understand that the world and everything in it is constantly changing, that atoms themselves are in constant motion, and that, trees are growing and animals are being born at this moment, and also things are passing away, and that everything is on a big cycle. And so this is the higher vibration of this energy. So the Neptune is making a square to this full moon, and so squares are forced action, and that means that it is imperative to start envisioning what you want in your future. And that is, 1 day from now, 5 weeks from now, 10 years from now, all of these different timeline points. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're activating the abundance of the universe and allowing yourself to co-create with the universe. What it does is it puts you on track so you can recognize opportunities. Now, there's a whole range of different goals that you might be envisioning, anything from something that's quite spiritual all the way to something that is very everyday and ordinary. And the reason that that's okay is because we're all learning lessons from every single thing that we're doing. Even those everyday things of just taking care of ourselves and taking care of the family. So it's very important that we live on these different levels because we are in bodies now. We are not just spiritual beings, we are also having a physical experience. And so it's great to make this vision for yourself of being this higher being, but you are in a body right now, and so that also is envisioning a good job, where you want to live, what kind of relationships you want to have, and what kind of interaction you want to have with friends and family. Now that's Neptune, which is doing the square. The sextile is coming from Saturn, and a sextile is interesting because it's an opportunity, and it's one if you initiate some action that wonderful things happen. But if you don't initiate action, then nothing happens. So what is imperative right now is to envision the plan. You also have the option to take action on that plan, but it is not required at this time. But I am going to encourage you to do it because when you take an action on a sextile, things can turn quite positive. Now, there's a couple other notable aspects in this chart, and one of those is that Mars is exactly conjunct Chiron. Now, Chiron, the story of Chiron is that he was a centaur and he was a great teacher. And then through some sort of misunderstanding and some disagreements, he was accidentally struck by a poison arrow. Now, Chiron was immortal, and the poison could not be healed, and so he was in constant pain. And so the only time he really felt better was when he was teaching, because then his mind was on something else. And so this is our lesson, and that is that as you give to others, as you are helping others in the world, you are yourself healed. Now, there's also a stellium going on, and that is Uranus is conjunct Venus and conjunct the North Node. And those are all going on in Taurus. Now, this is kind of a volatile, super exciting stellium that says that what you can do is instinctual, like you are finding your core energy and going after it. Now, that can be good or bad, because sometimes from an instinctual place, we might recoil from something or run away from something, or be just looking for pleasure without some of the other things that would be good for the world. I mean, it's not all about, just eating Twinkies and watching TV. So this combination can set off a chain of events in your life that will cause you to run after something that maybe is a bad habit, or maybe is something that you're reacting to rather than thinking it through. And this could mean that you fall in love very quickly, that you fall in love with an object, you were desiring to buy a car or a computer or something like that, or that you are compulsively doing something that you had stopped doing before. Now, the positive side of this is heightened creativity. And so if you feel drawn to paint or draw or to music, this is a really good thing. And so look at what you can create with this really exciting energy. So, and then finally, the other thing about this chart, which is quite interesting, is that Mars is only making 2 aspects, which, with all these planets moving around all the time, you would expect a few more. And both of those aspects are not that easy. So Mars is making a semi-square to Mercury and a semi-sextile to Venus. And so I think there's going to be a level of frustration that you find in the people around you, because everything's going to feel a little bit more difficult, a little bit more irksome. Everything's going to take longer. And so that means more traffic, more delays, things in your way. And this is coming when Mercury's not retrograde, when the eclipses are past. And so you're thinking, why is this happening now? And that is that sometimes it's just that things take longer. And in that, we're supposed to then just sit and be patient and allow that energy to sort itself out. But of course, Jupiter's in Aries and Mars is in Aries, and so nobody's going to be feeling patient. And so if you find that the person ahead of you is blowing up, you might want to give them some distance. They may not understand what's going on. On the other hand, because this chart is much more about envisioning and planning, focus your energies that way. When you feel blocked, go back to planning and do more details, or stretch out your timeline, or look at different timelines that could be possible. And that's a better use of this energy than feeling wound up by that Mars in Aries. And just to let you know, we are doing tropical Western astrology here. I am putting timestamps in the description, plus there are chapters so you can jump right to your sign. Listen to your ascending sign as well as your sun sign. The ascending sign is going to be more of what's happening to you, while the sun sign is going to have more messages for you. And then if you don't know your rising sign, you can send me your birth information and I'll send you a copy of your chart. I want to thank you for subscribing and let you know that I also do readings. I've written a lot of books, and I also write for horoscope.com and astrology.com. I am planning some classes coming up, and if you want to get notified about those classes, either send me an email or subscribe to my newsletter. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, this full moon is lighting up your house of education, so you have the maximum energy in this area. So that is education, long distance travel, legal matters, and also faith and belief. So this is where the energy is so that you can get things done, so you can get help in this area. And if you're not in school, that might mean applying for different colleges or getting ready to go off to college in the fall. If it's a legal matter, this gives you energy to go through paperwork or get something actually to a point where it's completed. For long distance travel, this might mean traveling, but also making arrangements for travel and so on. Now, whenever we see that square to Neptune is right rising in your chart, and that means that it is time to look at the bigger picture. And so this is about looking at your vision for where you are in the future, and not just, next year, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or what are you going to be doing between the ages of 90 and 100, and then 80 and 90, and then 70 and 80. Like looking at your life as the big picture and what it is that you really want to accomplish. Because sometimes when we drill down to the day-to-day level, those things can get lost in the shuffle. And those things might be for you, traveling to Machu Picchu or going around the world. Maybe it is about getting the degree you were looking for, or spending more time looking at your faith and beliefs. Now, where we see that sextile to Saturn is in your area of groups and organizations. And so this is a time where you can find friends and like-minded people to help you with your goals. And so maybe you're a writer, and so you can find a writer's group, or a filmmaker, and you can find people who are interested in film, and you can share tips and encourage each other. Anything that you like to do, you can find a group for it. So what the Saturn is saying here is it's time to do some networking. Now, also an interesting note for Aries specifically is, because we had talked about in the introduction that Mars is only making 2 aspects, and Mars is your chart ruler, recognize that a lot of the stuff that's going on is focusing you in a very particular direction. So look at what we were talking about here about setting goals and making plans, and focus in that direction. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Mars, of course, is not making an aspect to the sun. And so again, there's a lot of focus here elsewhere. Now, Mars is in your first house. It's in your own sign. And so that is a relationship placement. But you are more allowing a relationship to come to you. So this is more about removing blocks to relationship rather than you going after something, which I know is very different for you because, Aries, you like to take a lot of action and you find that the rest of the world moves slower than you would like. But now is a time to take a breath and really stop and visualize what it is you're looking for, then open your eyes and you may find it right in front of you. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mars is making the semi-sextile to Venus, one of its 2 aspects. And so there is an opportunity, if you can get down to that granular level of the everyday stuff and work through any issues that you have, like, you don't like the way that your partner loads the dishwasher, or that they take a long time to take out the trash, or things like that. Work those things out and the relationship will grow and get stronger. Now, when it comes to home and family, Mars is not making an aspect to the moon and the house is empty. And so this is not a big focus for your life right now. Now, if for some reason at this time you are moving, then that explains why the Mars is in your sign and you're able to take action. But interaction in general with family is not something that is the bigger priority. They're there for you when you need it. Well, the ones that usually are, and the ones that are usually difficult will remain being difficult. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus that is sitting between Uranus and the North Node. So on the higher level, what this is using your creative mind to come up with new money-making ideas, and you have multiple ideas that can come in. And these are going to feel both exciting and feel like something that you can do. So this is really good energy for creating new sources of income. But on a lower level, this can mean that you absolutely, completely fall in love with some person or something, and you are ready to use all of your resources to get closer to that. And so do be careful about impulse spending, about going overboard, or about doing something that feels like it almost has control of you. And, cause yourself to, as much as you can, to pause before you move forward. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Venus is not making an aspect to Pluto. And so what this means is you're making about the same as usual. And some of that's because you are coming up with new ideas, but you haven't had time to implement these ideas yet. So look at this as a time to be building up your business where you can then make profits later. Now, when we look at money derived from career, so like a paycheck, or if you work contract or something like that, then the story is entirely different because Venus is making a conjunction to Uranus. So you have an opportunity to suddenly whip around and ask your supervisor for a raise, and they might be so shocked that they automatically say yes. So this is where you want to suddenly and unexpectedly connect with that person to say, let's do this right now. It is also possible that they might surprise you with some new opportunity, and which time then you could say, yes, I will do that new project, or I will take over this team, but I need more money. So in the back of your mind, you want to be ready to ask for more money just in case this opportunity arises. And then finally, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or they are time sensitive. So the sun is making a semi-sextile to Venus, and this means that you need to get down into the weeds of it. Figure out how the mechanics work. What are the first principles? And this is the irritating part of the process where you have to actually get to know this thing quite intimately. And when you do, then you have a chance of really succeeding. So this is a time to take a breath again, slow down, and go through the details. Okay, Taurus, you guys are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of resources and power. And so this is where the maximum energy is for getting loans, dealing with credit card debt, student loan debt, also getting resources for your business or for your personal life through maybe crowdfunding sources, etc. Then this is also about power and who has the power, what the truth is, where you are in control of things, and where you can, put a little bit of control out there in the world to get what you want. Now, we are seeing that square to Neptune in your area of science. And so here's Neptune, which is very spiritual and has all these wonderful ideas, and where you're getting a vision, and it says blend spirituality with science, that one cannot exist without the other. Well, I shouldn't say that. They can exist without the other, and they often do, but not effectively. So when they are combined is when things really work. And so the Neptune is about visualization, but it's asking you that you also write these things down and put them in your calendar and write out the steps, etc. Or, in a most mundane way to say it, it is that you can visualize winning the lottery, but you still have to buy a ticket. Now, where we see that sextile to Saturn, which is the opportunity, is elevated in your chart. And so that says go tell people what your plans are, because this brings accountability and support. And so let other people know. And so the Saturn says make an announcement. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Venus is not making an aspect with Mercury. And so there is kind of, well, first of all, your focus is elsewhere. Your focus is on looking at who you are and the things that you want to do. And sometimes that can lead a person to feel like there's nobody like me, and so how am I going to find somebody who's compatible? But on the other hand, this is a great time for you to explore what you're really interested in, not caring if you're going to meet somebody there, because that's the time that you can meet somebody, is when you're not really paying attention to it. And so this is go do things that you enjoy, meet the people who are there, but not with the intention of meeting love, but meeting friends. And it is likely that you will find someone who's quite interested in you. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. Now, here there is a possibility that you guys are kind of bumping heads a little bit, or more accurately, your heads are not even in the same location, so that you're not bumping heads, but you're just not paying attention to each other because there's no aspect. So in some ways, this is you going off and doing the things that you want to do and explore. That's good. That's what this chart says. And it's likely they are as well. So allow yourselves to explore the different avenues that you can, and then don't get contentious with each other if possible when you come back together, because this energy will harmonize later. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is making a semi-sextile to the sun, and so there's quite a bit of activity going on. It may be that you're doing some spring/summer cleaning or decluttering, or maybe one of your kids is moving back in, they're back from college or something like that. So there's a lot of activity going on, but it's all behind the scenes. It's all kind of hidden from view. And so this might mean it's in the basement or the attic, or it's just not so visible. And because it's a semi-sextile, it's a little bit irritating. So do try to, not stress each other out as you do this sort of day-to-day mundane process. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is at 0 degrees of Gemini. And so this means that there is some brand new source of money that is available to you. This could then morph into something that is a regular stream of income and grow larger over time. But it is so brand new. It is something you haven't done before, something that is maybe something you hadn't even considered before, and you haven't gotten very far in the preparation of it, so we don't know yet if this is going to be a viable source. And that is just when it comes up, just test it, explore it, figure it out. And so you're going to be spending this 2-week period looking and discovering this new source of money. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, the Mercury is making a sextile to that Jupiter, so you have many opportunities to bring in money. And that is, if you take an action, then good things can happen. So you initiate the calls, make the sales calls. If people have expressed interest in your services, maybe reach out to them and see if they want to schedule. So there are some great opportunities for you in this area. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, like a paycheck, Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. So you have another good opportunity here, and that is if you will approach your supervisor or HR or whoever that you talk to about a raise, you have an opportunity to gain. This is also quite helpful if you are negotiating a salary for a new company, new job. Now, that still means that you do need to initiate this action. It's not going to come automatically. So when you're interviewing for a job, they may state something that's lower than you want, but ask, because there is some wiggle room here. Okay, then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or very time sensitive. This is focused on that Mercury at 0 degrees. Now, the hard part about Mercury being at 0 degrees is it's so brand new that it may be something that is very, very difficult to research. And so this could be a new cryptocurrency and nobody's buying it yet. You don't know if the software is sound. You don't know where it's going to go. So be extremely cautious when it comes to investing in something that's super new. It's the same thing with any of these on-spec risky investments where you are spending a lot of time to do something. This might mean that you say that you're going to write your novel, but you don't even know that you don't know the title, you don't know the characters, like you're really new at this. And so this is a time to visualize how this is going to go or explore where you can. But it does look like the information that you can get from the outside world is quite limited because it's so new, so do be cautious. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of relationships, partnerships, and balance. And that means you have maximum energy there for meeting somebody new, for working on your existing relationships of all kinds, or meeting an influencer to help you out, or a mentor, or a business partner. This is also maximum energy to put your life back into balance. So if you're working all the time, or if you're playing all the time, if you're finding you're procrastinating on things, this is where you can put your life back into balance. Now, where we see that square to Neptune is elevated in your chart, and so this is about finding someone you can look up to. This is having somebody as a role model for you to get a vision about what it is that you want. So if you wanted to start a business, find somebody who does a similar business and look and see what you can find out about them, their history, their decision-making process, etc. Or perhaps this is something where, you want to have a great relationship. Well, maybe a relative of yours had a wonderful relationship. How did they work on that relationship with their partner? How did they connect? How did they meet the person? So looking for someone who you can emulate is this square to Neptune. And then where we see that sextile to Saturn is in your house of education. And so that says that once you have figured out what it is that you want, then go take a class on it, go find a teacher. Maybe if you're looking for relationships, maybe take a class on how to write a good profile, how to communicate, what your love language is. If you are doing something in business, of course, there are millions and millions of courses on how to do a business. And so thinking about what it is that you want, and then go find the information that you need. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is not making an aspect with Venus, but Mercury is at 0 degrees of your sign. And so everything is super new. And so what might be happening here is you might be redefining who it is that you want to meet, what those attributes are, and the type of person that you're interested in. So because of that, everything is so new that it's hard to meet that person within this 2-week period. It's more like you are just realizing that you need a different type of person in your life. Maybe you've always gone for the person who is a little bit more drama oriented, and you've discovered that you want somebody who likes peace and, some quiet and an easy relationship, which is all good. But looking at that not as, I'm not doing aspects this time and that's difficult, but what this actually is something is so brand new that it is you looking at everything with fresh eyes. Wow, that was a difficult sentence. Sorry about that. Now, when it comes to your existing relationships, the Mercury is making a sextile to Jupiter, so there is an opportunity to get closer, to understand each other more, to have this wonderful, intimate connection. And all of it is based on your actions, because it's a sextile. That means you have to take an action, then wonderful things happen. You can't wait for the other person. So even if it's your birthday, you have to move forward and so you have to you have to take the action, because then great things happen. But that's the problem with the sextile. Now, when it comes to home and family, because that Mercury is at 0 degrees of Gemini, something new is happening. And that might mean that you are starting to think about moving. I don't think that the move would be happening just yet, but for some, it's just popping into your head that maybe you should consider moving, or maybe that you are wanting to make some changes in the house, or that somebody is moving in or somebody is moving out. And so there are some changes going on, and that means there's a little bit of disruption going on in the house. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that moon in your house of partnerships and connections. And that means you can find a mentor, a collaborator, a business partner, somebody who is an influencer to help you promote your products and services, or to tell you how to get started. So this is a great time to reach out to people through direct messages, or to just sit down with somebody and say, how do I do this? How do I get started? Or to collaborate with them because you are in mutually helpful businesses, and so that you can get together and help each other. I should also say this is a really good time for you to meet new people, because the more people you meet, the more money you're going to make. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mars is not making an aspect with the moon, and so right now you're making about the same as usual. And so one of the things you might consider is if you were doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it is time to be thinking of some new things or having a vision for something different in your life. Now, this energy is going to change. It always changes for you rather quickly. You're Gemini, so you are quite versatile, and you can see when you need to adjust. But right now, you're making about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, even though the moon is not making an aspect to Mars, Mars is in that house, and it is there with Jupiter, and so there's a lot of energy and activities. Now, what I'm thinking is that you may get a promise of a raise or bonus or some other money, but for some reason that money is coming to you outside of this 2-week period. So they're saying, yes, in a couple of months you're going to receive that, or you're going to receive it next paycheck, and the paycheck's outside the 2 weeks. So the money's not quite here yet, but it is worthwhile to ask and pursue this, even though you're not doing an aspect. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly sensitive. They're highly leveraged or time sensitive. So I'm only on Gemini, and I'm already making mistakes. So, the moon is the moon is making an inconjunct to Venus. I'm going to have to cut all that out. So what this means is that you have to get outside of your comfort zone to make something happen. And sometimes with an inconjunct, it's so far out of your comfort zone that when we couple that with a risky investment, it seems unwise. So, but if that uncomfortableness with the situation is that you don't really like to look through contracts, but you have to, or you don't like to, do these spreadsheets or calculations, but you have to, or it is that you have to show all of your work to somebody else who may, criticize what you're doing. So all of these things that pull you outside the comfort zone, but are very helpful towards moving towards your goals, that's really good right now. If, on the other hand, you're feeling uncomfortable because you're making an oversized bet on something that is highly risky, that's not a good thing to do with risky investments in general, and certainly not on an inconjunct aspect. So there are opportunities here because there's an aspect, but look at the things that are hard or challenging to do rather than just throwing money at something just because you're in a rush to get it done. So this is a better way to use the inconjunct, is to do the hard stuff, not to do the impulsive stuff. Okay, Cancer, this full moon lights up your house of work and routines and basically your daily life. This means you have maximum energy to change habits. And so if you are looking to start an exercise program, or if you are really trying to get inspired to shift your diet. This might be something that you already started, maybe even just 2 weeks ago on the new moon, but now you're at the full moon. And so this is a time to really focus on doing it. Now, of course, this is also about letting go of bad habits. And so looking at what is no longer serves you, no longer bringing you the benefits that you want, and so therefore you can let it go. Now, where we see that square to Neptune is up in your house of beliefs and faith. This is also the house of adventure and knowledge. And so it's talking about, yes, it's very, very important to have plans, maybe a goal board, pictures in your mind of what you want, but these shouldn't be empty thoughts. They shouldn't be just these whimsical things that you deep down think you're never going to do. So these need to be still grounded in something that is realistic. And that doesn't mean to curtail what you are envisioning, but to get a plan. And that's where Saturn comes in. And that is where you're doing the sextile to Saturn in your area of resources. And it's time to be resourceful. If you want to travel the world, then what are the resources that you have available, and what resources are available in the world that other people have access that you can access also? So it's time to ask yourself those questions of, how can I get what I want? How can I get what I need? And if those questions don't give you good answers, then change the question and continue to change the question until you get answers you can use. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically love relationships, the moon's making a semi-sextile to Pluto. So what we see is that most of the planets are quite elevated, and this means you can meet someone, but that you may be feeling ambivalent, you may be feeling uncertain, that your feelings are growing and changing, I should say growing and shrinking. And so, you might feel quite enthusiastic when you first meet the person and then be very hesitant later, or vice versa. And so this is a time where, because it's a semi-sextile, it's very important to examine your feelings, to honor those feelings, not just shove them aside, but you do have an opportunity to meet someone, but you just need to be mindful of what you're feeling in the process. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making a sextile to Saturn, and so you have an opportunity to deepen this love relationship, specifically in this area of daily life and intimacy, and that is to bring something together where you have deeper conversations on a more regular basis, where you're really listening to each other, even if it's just for 5 minutes, and where you're paying more attention to each other's physical needs. And so this can strengthen the relationship at this time. Now, when it comes to home and family, the moon is making it inconjunct to Venus, and so this means that there is some points of contention going on in the family. Now, it's interesting because the house is empty. However, we do have a lot of things that are elevated, and so that means that different behaviors could be coming to light. And because your moon is in that house of daily routines, it's possible that the fact that you're maybe doing a lot of the extra housework and other people aren't pitching in, or that things are out of balance in some way, could be causing you to feel that some adjustments are needed. And so that's basically what it's saying. It's saying to express what it is that you want, even if you know that could change over time. So but just express in the moment, this is how I'm feeling right now, and see if you can't come to some sort of mutual agreement. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that sun, which is in your 12th house of infinite possibilities. This is a very spiritual place, and so this means to reach out spiritually to ask for the resources that you need first before you are actually sending emails or doing marketing or things like that. So this is making a trine to that Saturn and still that square to Neptune. And so it says, first work on your plans, make them something that you can have an actual timeline with because of that trine to Saturn. And also, it is an opportunity for you to look for more resources, maybe to build your business, maybe to help you with cash flow issues, or maybe just to get the knowledge that you need so that you can move forward on the plans you have. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your own business, the sun is making a semi-sextile to Uranus. And so there is some money-making opportunities for you, but they are, what's in the way is some little details that you need to take care of. And that is, setting the appointment or getting your paperwork together, completing an application or, going through some of the fine print. It's more irksome than difficult, and so it's just about you have a good chance of making more money over this next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so that's like a paycheck, the sun is making a semi-sextile to Venus, but Venus is in that house. And so what it indicates is that your supervisor is open to talking to you about it if you can just get your schedules to match up. That's going to be the challenging part of this because of that semi-sextile. Details are getting in the way. There also may be some, rules or regulations that the company has that are tripping up you getting that appointment, which could be that you don't get to talk about this until a month from now, or that, you just had a promotion and you can't quite talk about the raise yet. There's something, but it's just one of those kind of on paper rules. It can be bent or broken. And so that's where you need to push a little bit. Yes, of course, there's going to be better aspects in the future. So if you're not feeling really strong about this, you may want to just pass this up, and you may end up with a little bit more than usual, maybe through some sort of bonus or extra commission. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or they are very time sensitive. The sun is making an inconjunct to Pluto, which means that you may not be on the right track. It doesn't mean that you're completely off. It just means you have to make some sort of adjustment. And so look at the direction that you're heading, what you've been receiving so far, and make a shift. And so that might be that, maybe you are working on your novel and perhaps this needs to be a short story and released sooner, or maybe it needs to be released in parts, or maybe this is a novel that does need to be a series. And so that you are going to release the novel, but with some sort of cliffhanger in it. So, or if you're doing some sort of risky investment towards maybe an old currency, perhaps what you're looking at is where can you make some adjustments, diversification, or shift your basic decision making because of shifts in the market. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of self-expression, creativity, fertility, romance, and adventure. And so this is where the maximum energy is. That means it's time to finish up a creative project. It's time to ask that person out. It's time to go do the things that bring you pleasure and bring excitement and joy to your life. Now, where we see that Neptune is in your 8th house, and what that means is that you need to recognize what it is you want to hold on to and what you need to let go of so that you can really firmly grasp what it is that you want. So in your vision of things, you may be looking at things that you want, more resources, more money, more connections, deeper connections, but it may mean that you need to give up something that is no longer bringing you benefits. And so this Neptune allows you to do some differentiation in that area. And then where we see that sextile to Saturn is in your house of partnerships. And so somebody can come along to you and say to you, I've done this before. I know how to do this. And that could be anything from the creative process, or that you are putting yourself on stage or something like that, or more related to the Neptune of maybe how to let go of what doesn't serve you anymore. But here comes somebody who is going to tell you that they've done it before and this is how they did it. And so you can glean from that different options of how you can move forward. So when it comes to relationships, specifically love relationships, or new love, I should say, the sun is not making an aspect with Jupiter. However, the full moon is there. So you may be feeling very emotional very emotional about this topic. You may be feeling like you really need to meet somebody new, and this is something you put a lot of time and energy into, and right now it doesn't seem to be connecting. And so this is a time where, as you are acknowledging your own emotions and your feelings about that, which is very important to do, then take a break and just rest, because in this 2-week period, it's more challenging for you to connect with someone. So this is more about finding ways to have fun and joy on your own, being solo, because this aspect will line up in the future, and so you're not going to be single forever, and so it's quite possible that this is the last time you get to do some of these things alone, so try to embrace that now. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the Sun's making a semi-sextile with Uranus, and so this is that the relationship can get better, but you have a few of those basic things, those small things that are kind of, stressing the two of you out. Maybe your partner leaves the peanut butter jar open and on the counter, or that, one of you sleeps longer than the other and the other resents it, or, so there's some small thing that just needs to be talked out. And once you have talked it out, then there can be some adjustments or compromise. So that is, in general, your relationship is going okay. But if you let these small things be that rock in the shoe on your hike, what happens is, if you don't take care of it in the proper time, it can create it can destroy the hike. I shouldn't say create. It can destroy the hike, because that rock in the shoe can, create the blisters in the feet and, just painful walking process. You get it. Now, when it comes to home and family, the Sun is making an inconjunct to Pluto. And so there's something going on where a big adjustment needs to happen. And so this might be that, you are getting ready for kids to be coming back home, or maybe they've just gotten back home from college, or now they're home full time because they're not in school. And so that might be the adjustment, and that everybody is learning again how to deal with so many people in the house. But it is also possible that there are some adjustments happening because you need to do some repairs or renovations and you can't get some help. Or finally, the help is here, but now you have the chaos of having all of that going on. So it's kind of an uncomfortable time, but being uncomfortable sometimes does give us that sense of living, that's awareness. A lot of the idea of travel being so, it reveals so much about us, is because we do get uncomfortable for a little bit. And so this is that sort of discomfort of there's a change happening, and as we adjust, we grow. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is now at 0 Gemini. So it's in its own sign. It's at 0, which is that, cosmic egg of potentiality. So there is some new potential idea that is just forming over these next 2 weeks. It's not necessarily time to act on this. This is just a time to be writing down ideas. You may have dozens of ideas because this has so much potential. Now, it is elevated Mercury, so it's not the highest planet, but it is up there. And so you may receive this information from friends, watching YouTube videos, talking to colleagues in your industry, just talking to strangers out in the world, people in your community. And so the ideas can come from anywhere. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your own business, Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune. Now, this is an out of sign sextile, and we've talked about that on this channel before, but it does mean that the profits aren't the most obvious, or the action you need to take is not the most obvious. And so because we have this very strong communication Mercury, this may be you asking yourself questions about, what can I do to make more money? Is this a good investment? Really stopping and listening to the answer that you get from these questions. So the money there's this opportunity to make more money over the next 2 weeks, but there is this little part of it that says it's not the most obvious, and so you may have to look around and do a little bit of exploring. Now, when it comes to money from your career, so that is like a paycheck, it is this Mercury, which is doing multiple out of sign aspects with Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto. And so there is so much going on that is, again, not obvious, that you need to shift your thinking, do something different, because that's what's going to bring more money. And so maybe you're bringing some innovative ideas to your boss. Maybe your boss is saying to you, we're coming up with some new ideas. Let's do some brainstorming. So there is an opportunity here. Now, all of this energy is going to line up better in the future. And so you may want to wait until this energy is not so new, but right now just be open to what your boss has to say. You can always say later, okay, this is not a project that I want to do, but right now be open, because there could be some possibilities in what you guys are talking about. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mercury is making a sextile to Jupiter, and so again, it's not out of sign. It is an actual sextile. So I'll correct myself there. So you're making a sextile, but that Mercury still is at 0. So this does mean that right out of the gate, you could make some profits on something. Now, don't mistake that for that you're always going to make profits. This says that by taking some action, you could have an early win. That's fantastic. But again, don't push all your chips into the pot right yet, because this is just a sextile, and because that Mercury is at 0, things could shift rather rapidly and go the other direction. So I think you can make some more money than usual. This may be a time to launch something, but this is more, like I wouldn't put your entire album out, but you might put some clips out or some behind the scenes footage out to kind of whet the appetite of people, and then, launch the album when this aspect lines up better. Okay, Virgo, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of home, family, ancestors, dwelling, foundations, and also, which we don't talk about very often, but this is also the house of endings. And this is where there is maximum energy. So there's maximum energy about home and family and, dealing with your house, but also looking at maybe something that is ending in your life and dealing with that, head on. Maybe a friend is moving away, maybe this is the last summer you're going to be with your kids because they're going off to college. So there's something here that is suggesting that looking at what is ending and going away in your life and being mindful so that you have those precious moments, that you're conscious of them, that you're aware of them, and sit with those. Now, when it comes to the more mundane, this can mean that you are finishing up some renovations, or, saying that some renovations are just not going to happen this year and that you're just going to wait, or that you are also, dealing with home and family issues right now and maybe putting your house in order. You have maximum energy for that right now. So that means that you have the energy to get it done. Now, when it comes to that square to Neptune, Neptune's in your house of relationships and partnerships. And that means that it is you recognizing that you have relationships in your life, and every time we have a relationship we are at risk of getting hurt, and yet the rewards outweigh the risks. Additionally, this is that new people can come into your life, and so you might say to yourself, that you want to expand your community, expand your circle of friends. I think this is very important, but it does mean that you have to carve out some time for that and really connect with people. And so this is the Neptune part of that, and that is just starting to envision that happening. You may not be meeting the people during this 2-week period, but you are starting to envision and telling the universe you are welcoming and opening to a partner, to new friends, to people to collaborate with, and mentors or guides. So that's what that Neptune is talking about. Now, where the sextile to Saturn is in your area of daily routines, and that is, can you carve out time to go to maybe the meetings where you meet someone or coffee with a friend so you can deepen that relationship? So it's actually taking those things and putting them into your schedule and saying, this is really a priority. And then you may be rearranging your schedule entirely. Maybe people would walk with you in the morning if you did it a little later or a little earlier. And so this is where you can, grab hold of an opportunity by looking at your daily routines and seeing where you can fit in the things that you want, well, more accurately, the people that you want. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's making a square to Saturn, and so there is a lot of positive energy here. There is a lot of elevated planets in your chart, and so this does mean that you could find somebody, like you could just come together, and your house of intimacy is looking very good, and so this could be a very passionate romantic you want. It's time to do something to put this into your schedule, like we were talking about before, and that's taking the time to go be social, taking the time to go through your, who's responding to your online profile, and making that first date. And if you're following the moon phases, you might say, okay, you're going to spend most of the time just kind of connecting with people and then have the first date after the new moon. You could certainly do that. But there are still some good aspects for having a first date during this time, and it's a square, so you feel compelled to do something. When it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune, and so you have an opportunity to come together to have a stronger relationship. You have a great house of intimacy going on with Mars and Jupiter, so there could be more private time between the two of you, more romantic time between the two of you, so that's really good. It's also interesting because you have a strong house of travel, so maybe you guys are traveling together, and so you're out away from your routine, and so that can cause more romantic things to happen. And then when it comes to home and family, Mercury's making a sextile to Jupiter, plus the full moon is there. So this is where the energy is. And so this is about creating that home to be something that you feel at home at, So that might mean decluttering, letting go of excess. It might mean shifting things around so that the place feels more open, finishing up some renovation projects, and letting go of maybe unnecessary expectations. We live in a community, and so it can't always be quiet. I can hear my neighbor moving around, and you may not be able to hear it, but we have to also say, it's wonderful to have people around, and yes, they're going to make some noise, and that's that. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus in your house of education, and it's sitting there with Uranus. And we haven't talked about Venus very much so far because it's not really very prominent in this chart. But what I would say is probably what's going on for you more is you are learning about something. So maybe this is a time where you've said, okay, you want to develop a new skill, and now you're buckling down and really learning it. Now, with that Uranus, there can be some problems with distraction, and so you may want to learn in very short periods. You may want to learn through some sort of electronic means, and that is, if you normally read a book, you might want to listen to the book. If you normally listen to a book, maybe you want to watch a video where you are trying to teach somebody what it is that you're talking about, and that way when you roll the video back, you'll be able to see where the holes are in what you know, etc. So it's just a way of learning, but this is where your focus is actually to learn about how to handle your money, how to make money, how to protect your money. This is the focus for these 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your own business, Venus is making a semi-sextile to that Mars, but Mars is in that house, so the energy is quite good. The semi-sextile says that there is some small little things that you have to do to gain profits, and that might be just phoning up someone and saying, hey, your invoice is past due and you need to pay it. Maybe it is about going into each account and looking and seeing what the fees are. Can you get those reduced? Do you have some cash that needs to be invested? Do you have some investments that need to be cash? Or how are you diversifying? And so you have a strong house. The aspect itself is not that strong. However, you know what we say here. If you're doing an aspect, you have an ability to make more money than usual over this 2-week period. And so that's what's happening. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be like a paycheck, the moon is making a inconjunct to Venus, and that is a challenging aspect. So it is an aspect, so you can make more money, and that means you possibly that a raise from the past is coming in, but because maybe taxes are being taken out or something, it's not as much money as you were thinking, or it is time for you to make some adjustments and put more into savings or things like that. But more so, if you are looking to be asking for a raise or asking for some sort of change in your salary or your hours or something, you are going to run into some obstacles. So the energy's there to get a yes, but you have a little obstacle course to get to that. And maybe it's because your boss is on vacation. Maybe they're too busy right now to sit down with you. Maybe you have a project that you'd like to be finished with, to present to them, to say, look what I've done. So there are some challenges. And of course, this energy is going to line up for you much better in the future. So if you want, you can just hold back for a couple of weeks and see what the energy is when we get to the new moon. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, and by that I mean that you are doing a lot on spec, and that would be like writing a screenplay and then trying to make money off of it, or building a business very, very slowly. So, or things that are highly leveraged, that would be where you borrow money, and so you're paying an interest rate to try to do an investment, or they are time sensitive, and most of those would be under the category of like options where they actually expire. So, and I wanted to say all of that very particularly for you because Venus is making a square to Saturn. So you may be feeling extremely compelled to go into a risky investment at this time. And so because they are risky investments, I do want you to be very careful. Now, because you're doing the square, if you're getting ready to launch something, you do have some possibilities here that of finding a good launch time to say, all right, I'm releasing this out into the world and getting some good publicity. If you are dealing with time-sensitive investments, then the risk of this is that your timing is not quite right. So do be extremely careful about that. Go over your thinking process, your decision-making process, look at past decisions, and maybe you have the aspects that you made those decisions on, but just recognize that with a square, you feel compelled to take an action. And so you certainly don't want that compulsion to take an action be based on somebody else saying, you have to do this right now, because it's possible that you don't have to do this right now and you're just feeling the square. So, a square is an aspect, and so a square means that you can make more money than usual in this category. However, it is still the risky investments, and you're going to hear me say this over and over. Please be careful. I don't have your chart in front of me. I'm just doing a general reading here, so I don't know what your particular circumstances are. So be quite careful. Don't invest in risky investments with money you can't afford to lose. Okay, Libra, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of communication. This means there's maximum energy for you communicating with other people, especially siblings, neighbors, but also just communication in your relationships. This is also really good for dealing with contracts, paperwork of all kinds, or maybe you are doing some writing or communication out into the world, and so this is a very good time to focus on that. Additionally, this also would include working with video courses, so maybe you are producing a video course, or maybe you've bought one and you've been procrastinating on doing it, and so this is a time to really focus on it. Now, where you're doing that square to Neptune is in your house of daily routines, and so this is that reminder that your life is made up of these individual moments, and so the energy is about looking at what you're doing at this very moment. Well, I guess you're watching a video, but at each moment in your life and saying, Is this the best use of my time? To stop saying, oh, I should be doing this, or berating yourself for procrastination or anything, but instead move all the energy to the present moment and say, what can I do now? Now that sextile to Saturn is in your house of creativity and pleasure. And so when it comes to doing all the things you have to do with communication and paperwork, look for ways to do it in a different way and something creative, something that makes it more enjoyable. And that might mean that you are creating or that you're communicating through some sort of art, or maybe you are interspersing your work with more art. Maybe you're just in a setting that you find to be more pleasant, but just think to yourself, how can you have more fun doing the things that you have to do? How, like sometimes maybe just doing it really quickly, putting something on 1.5 speed, or, again, better setting, like look for ways to create more fun in the things that you have to do every day. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making a conjunction with Uranus, and this means that something really positive could happen. You have a great house of relationships, and this mostly is talking, though, about meeting someone for an intimate love relationship, but you could also meet somebody who becomes a new best friend. So time to get out there and connect with someone, because this energy is quite good. Now, when it comes to your existing love relationships, Venus is making a semi-sextile to Mars, and so there is some energy here, but the timing might be a little bit off. You might be slightly irritated with each other because the timing's off, and so you do want to emphasize that communication between the two of you so that you can come together without that stress. This is a growth aspect, and so it allows you to look at your own behaviors and learn more about yourself and make some choices, and that can make the relationship better. Now, when it comes to home and family, there's a lot of energy going on because Venus is making a square with Saturn. And because your house of relationships is pretty active, it might be that, people are coming and going from the house. Maybe kids are coming back from college, or the kids are home now. And so there's a great deal of activity going on because this full moon is in your house of neighbors and siblings. Maybe there's some extra interaction going on with them. So expect to have your days or weeks filled with energy from your family and also extended family. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Pluto, which is getting pretty close to leaving Capricorn. And so this means that you have just a short period of time, and of course in Pluto time, that's still a couple of years, but still it's getting closer to leaving that 4th house. So if you've been interested in making money through real estate or making money through a family business, you have a couple of years left to work on that energy. So that means maybe getting your real estate license or talking to family members about pooling resources. Now, you're also pulling energy from that Mars in your house of relationships, partnerships, mentors, and collaborators. And so that is, the more people you meet right now, the more money you can make. So you really do want to capitalize on this. Look at who you can meet, where you can expand your circle of friends and acquaintances, and that will bring you more customers, clients, and money-making opportunities. Now, when it comes to money from your business or traditional investments, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. And so Venus, though, is in that house. And so there are some money-making opportunities. I think the payday is going to be outside of this 2-week window, but you definitely want to pursue some opportunities because the opportunities do exist. And just like I said, that the payday is possibly a little bit delayed. So I see you making about the same as usual over the 2-week period, but you could make much more in one of the future periods. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, and that's like a paycheck, the Sun is making an inconjunct to Pluto. Now, normally, of course, an inconjunct's not that easy an aspect. However, an inconjunct still is an aspect, which means that the money that's out here could reach your a bank account. But an inconjunct does indicate that the person's going to ask more of you or that you make an adjustment. So if you ask for a raise at this time, they're probably going to say that you need to work different hours or take on a bigger project or do something that might be either outside your comfort zone or something you have already decided you didn't want to do. So you may want to wait until this energy lines up better. On the other hand, you may be approached during this time to get the offer of more money if you do such and such, and then you want to weigh your possibilities. And not possibilities, you want to weigh your choices. Okay, now when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or time sensitive. You have some interesting energy. Now, there's no aspect going on between Pluto and Uranus. However, there's a semi-sextile between the co-ruler, Mars, and Uranus, as well as a semi-sextile between Pluto and the co-ruler of your House of Risky Investments, Saturn. So we have two semi-sextiles that you're working on, and a semi-sextile, which is this aspect of something that is putting you slightly outside your comfort zone, slightly irritating, things that are not quite fitting together. And so you grow because you're trying to, you're trying different options, you're looking for a solution. And that's what you're needing to do in this case, is there is something that is available to you, but it's not so straightforward, or maybe, what you have, it doesn't quite fit the parameters of this particular investment. And so, maybe some of the examples would be you want to buy some land, but you don't have the funds. And so maybe you need to look for different ways to raise some funds to buy the land. Or maybe you've collaborating with someone, but then they say, well, we want one person to own the land, not a bunch of people. So you have to work out some of those things. Or if you were, say, writing a novel and struggling to get that done, maybe it needs to be a screenplay. Maybe it needs to be a live play, an action, I don't know which, live theater, I guess you would call it. So, and shift it that way. So look for some ways to tweak your idea to get that square peg into the round hole. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of money, and that means there's maximum energy in this area, especially for completing projects, completing the sale, finding sources of money. And if you do find new sources of money during this time, it's probable that you won't start them quite yet, but you'll do the research on them, do the planning. That's what this period would be about. But this is a really good time for you for money-making activities, and so you definitely want to capitalize on that. Now, where we see that square to Neptune is in that house of being a leader, and that is you're the captain of your ship, you're making your choices, and so it's time for you to understand how much power you really do have. And that is that you can choose what you're working on and choose the direction that you're going. And yes, it may not happen overnight. Of course, it won't happen overnight. It is something, though, that you can take the steps in the right direction. And then when we are looking at that sextile to Saturn, that reiterates that, because it says that look at your daily life at home, how everything from your foundation and upbringing, and what are the good things that you could bring forward from that. Yes, it may be that you had a very tough childhood. Maybe there was, thousands of awful moments, but think of the positives that you could bring forward, or from your genetic line, your ancestral line. Maybe you had an ancestor who was a great business person or had a great love relationship. Any of, what you're looking for is in your ancestral line. And I was focusing on money because this full moon is in your house of money. But you can use that Saturn to bring forth that good energy. Now, also the Saturn could be that you're looking at how you're taking care of yourself, how you take care of your house, as a metaphor or a microcosm of what you could be doing out in the world. And so that is, treating your house with that loving care, treating yourself with love and care and understanding. And that doesn't mean to just indulge in, lots of TV or sugar or whatever, but more like treating yourself with love and respect, because this is Saturn, and so respect has to be in there too. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, of course, Pluto is making that permanent, it's not truly permanent, but perpetual sextile to Neptune. And Neptune is still in your house of romance, so that bodes well. Mars, though, is interesting because Mars, your co-ruler, is in your house of work and co-workers. And so maybe there's something that is a possibility with someone you work with or somebody who's in your industry. And so consider that. It also talks about daily life, like that Saturn was that we were talking about, is like, what are you doing on a daily basis to move yourself towards meeting somebody new? And that is, maybe you have a profile online, but you need to check it. And, or maybe you need to just go out and be more social. But I think your prospects continue to be good for new love if that's what you're looking for. Now, when it comes to your existing love relationship, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto, and yet Venus is in that relationship house, and it is sitting there with Uranus, so surprising things could happen. But right now it is saying that the two of you are not connecting on a deeper level like you have perhaps in the past. And so this might be that maybe you two need to have a talk. Maybe you have to do something fun and different to kind of bring the two of you together. But it's likely over the next 2 weeks that your schedules aren't lining up, or that emotionally you seem to be not on the same page. This energy will line up in the future. So right now, this just isn't the focus. Now, when it comes to home and family, the energy is really about a semi-sextile, because the co-ruler of your ascendant, Mars, is making a semi-sextile to Uranus. So that was a mouthful, and we've talked about semi-sextiles in the past on this channel. It is about getting outside your comfort zone just a bit because something irritating is happening. There's a growth opportunity. Maybe they're traveling and visiting you. And so now you have, the joy of having guests, but also that's slightly inconvenient. Your schedule's different or things like that. Maybe there's some renovations going on or some construction around you, which is causing some noise. So we're seeing some slight irritations, but it is causing you to feel like there's a growth opportunity because you can make some adjustments. Now, when it comes to your money, of course, you are doing the full moon in this area. So this is where the power is. It is pulling energy from that Jupiter in your house of work and daily routines. And so you might want to look at things like what your habits are. There's some great books on that. Mini Habits I like very much. Of course, Atomic Habits is an excellent book for figuring out how to get what you want to have happen in the future by changing what you're doing today. These are both good books, and I will link those books in the description if you want to check those out. Now, because Jupiter is in your house of work, that does mean it is time to put the work in, and that is that maybe you are doing planning, maybe you're building your business, maybe you're building a website, but you need to put in the hours right now, and that's going to really pay off for you. So that's where the source of money is. It's also possible that you're finding help, and that is you're finding people to work on the parts of the business that you don't do, or that you are, hiring assistants, hiring salespeople, and so there's a big focus on that. When it comes to your business or through traditional or money made through traditional investments, Mercury is making a lovely sextile to that Jupiter. So there is some major opportunities here. Now, the warning is that Mercury is at 0. So this is something that you haven't done before, something that's brand new. And right now, because this is full moon energy, you're more in the planning stage than the launch stage. And so while we see that it's possible for you to make more money than usual over this next 2 weeks, the energy of what's coming is even better. And that is take some action on some new ideas, maybe discuss them, start to do a little framework of what they could be, because these could be some things that really take you to a new level in your business or in your investing. Now, when it comes to money from your career, and that would be like a paycheck, because that Mercury is at 0 degrees and making that sextile to Jupiter, it's probable you could get a promise of some sort of raise if you do XYZ. And that is, take on a new project, take on a new team, work some extra hours, etc. Because the promise seems a little vague with that Mercury at 0, maybe try and get it in writing. Try to get somebody who if they're doing a handshake deal with you, they're going to follow through because their integrity is involved. Like, don't just take somebody's word for it, but see if you can get something that assures you that if you take this on, that you are going to get the benefits. So while this is some good energy, it's that Mercury at 0 degrees that is causing me to give you that warning. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Jupiter's not making an aspect with Neptune, and right now they're in different signs, they're in different houses. So there's a little bit of a disconnect going on. That means that all the promises of profits and money aren't quite reaching you at the moment. Now, Jupiter will go retrograde, and it's going to go back into Pisces later in the year, and there'll be some big opportunities for you. So continue to work on your projects. It's not quite time to launch yet. It's not quite time to sign on the dotted line, but there will be some good energy in the future. Okay, Sagittarius, this is your full moon, and it is lighting up you. And that also brings you more confidence. It makes you easier to see in the world. And so this is a time where others are noticing you, where you can get attention for your business or for your love life, or just be seen in general. So even if you're not on stage, it feels like you are, because the spotlight is on you. And that's what's expanding. There's also an opportunity to expand yourself through confidence and giving you extra energy and giving you more vitality. So this is a time where you're going to feel more energized. And so that means you can take on bigger projects or meet new people. Okay, where you're doing that square to Neptune right at the foundations and, childhood and all of the issues around that, it's a reminder that to get something in life, there is a possibility of pain. And that is, when you think of what you went through as a child, or even, just the childbirth process, it's not pain-free by any means. This is just a reminder that everything that's positive and good also has the risk of pain. And so to remember that pain, you have survived so much already that you don't have to be afraid of the pain, that you can say, I can manage this, I can deal with this. And so all the new people you could meet, there's possibility that relationship will be the best relationship you've ever had, or that it could be painful. And so we have to risk that, and that's what brings the rewards. And so that's what the Neptune is reminding you. It also does say, though, one of the ways to get through this and get past it is to understand it from a philosophical or spiritual place, that this is just part of being alive. And then where we see that sextile to Saturn is in your area of communication and also self-talk. And so a lot of the times what is happening with us emotionally is related to how we communicate those things to ourselves. And so if you're using words that are very extreme, if things are devastating, if you're heartbroken, if you're crushed, your body reacts to that and things feel very intense. But if you say, oh, that was a learning experience, then things are less intense. And so look at the great things that happen in your life and talk about those in big terms and be excited about them, and your body will respond in a very positive way. But as you are talking about the difficult things in your life, and I understand you're wanting to be accurate, but you also want to look at the words themselves and say, how is this word how's my body reacting to this word or this phrase, and is this the most beneficial thing for me? And so by shifting how you talk to yourself, you can have a much better experience in this world. Now, when it comes to love, especially new love relationships, you have a great house because Jupiter and Mars are there, but Jupiter and Mars are too far apart. They're not speaking to each other. And so really what's happening is that the timing seems to be a little off. And that is perhaps this person asked you out last week, but you were too busy. And now you want to ask them out, but they're off on a vacation to Belize or whatever. And so you're going to have to wait until these two energies line up again to have things go smoothly. And so this is then a time maybe to work on your online profile, get new pictures done, or just to go out and be social and meet some friends versus looking for new love at the moment. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, you have a very interesting energy because this is an established relationship and you are doing a sextile between Mercury and Jupiter, but Mercury's at 0 degrees, so something new is happening. And that might be that maybe you're dating and now you're taking the relationship to a new level. Maybe the two of you have been around together for 20 years, but you're discovering something new together or something new about each other. And there is an opportunity to make a closer, deeper connection because of this information. And so, really go out and have some fun together. Maybe the two of you should just get together and do something you've never done, eat food you've never had before, like escargot or something like that, or go do an activity you've never done before, and that way you're exploring it together. Now, when it comes to home and family, Jupiter's not making that aspect to Neptune. And right now, they're kind of moving apart. And so that is that your family's probably going in 100 different directions. It's very hard to get people together. And it's possible also that maybe you're traveling and so you're away from the people that you normally see, but seeing other relatives, or, I'm getting kind of a feeling like some of you will be out seeing new grandkids, or getting involved with siblings, not siblings and neighbors, but siblings, cousins, and nieces and nephews. And so being with those younger relatives and all that, but it's still kind of challenging because there's no aspect. So even that's a little hit or miss, like you visit, but they're so busy that you don't see each other that much. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Saturn, which is making that sextile to this full moon energy. And so there's definitely some opportunities here, but you have to take some sort of structured action. And so that might mean taking the goals that are in your head and actually writing these out and writing out each step and putting it into your calendar so that you get things done. This is a time also where maybe you're doing some journaling, and because of that, you're finding out some of the habits that you have. You're exploring parts of yourself more deeply. And then, of course, there's the outward communication, and that might be doing a newsletter or connecting with people through a podcast or some other sort of language or communication method. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money made from your business, the moon's making that sextile to Mars that we were just talking about. So Mars, the moon is making a sextile to Saturn, just like we were talking about. And that does indicate that if you take an action, you can make more money than usual. So that is that, go out and do your sales, do your marketing, look at different investments. You have to initiate the action, not just sit by the phone and wait for people to call on past marketing, but maybe follow up with people, look at your sales funnel, maybe look at who's coming in, and check and make sure that they're getting all the material that you're expecting that they're getting. And with investments, looking at new possible investments, because there are some opportunities to make more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money from your career, and that would be a paycheck, Venus is making a square to Saturn. So this is the time to go and ask for that raise, to corner your boss and say, let's talk about this. The Venus is in your 6th house, so you have plenty to show your boss to say, this is how hard I've been working. This is what I've been working on. These are the, how much I've benefited the company. And if you are actually interviewing with a new job, you're doing the same and negotiating for a higher salary. So there are some real possibilities of getting a salary increase, certainly more hours, bigger projects, possibly even a promotion because you're doing this square. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is in that house, but not making an aspect to Saturn. And so therefore, there's a lot of activity. We're seeing a great deal of energy in this area. So that means you might be doing research, you might be working on the business or working on your album or getting ready for a launch. But because these don't line up yet, you may not be ready to launch just at the moment. So, or even if you are launching and you had an astrologer pick a great day for you, or you have figured out what day you want to launch, the payday is just outside of this 2-week period. So I love the fact that the Mars is there. That's fantastic. So, but do be cautious because the Mars is not lining up with that Saturn, and that does mean that the money out here is not quite reaching your bank account. So be cautious, but there is a lot of energy around risky investments this period. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of spirituality as well as intuition and your higher self. And so when you do the full moon in this house, your 12th house, this is the month before you're going to get your full moon. And so this is kind of like the completion point for the last 12 months. And so this is a time to really process what has happened, what did you learn, and where do you want to go from here. Additionally, this is a time where your connection to your higher self and to the universe is quite strong. And this is where the maximum energy is. So that's a good time to be looking at the feng shui of your home or doing some magic through meditation, affirmations, visualization, lighting candles, prayer, etc. That's where you're going to get the maximum effect and where you can connect more deeply, to the universe and to your higher self. Now, where you are doing that square to Neptune is in that area of communication, as well as looking at the little things and how things are interconnected. And so this is that sometimes you can get quite interested in different areas, and then you'll have a lot of interest, and maybe you'll do courses and books, and that's all you think about, and then you'll drop that thing. And that's because the puzzle piece that you needed, you found. And sometimes it's not the most obvious. Sometimes when we get obsessed with something and we do it for a little while, we don't recognize that we did get the puzzle piece, but you did. You found something that was going to be key later, or a key to the bigger picture. And so this is a time to actually look at the things that you're interested in now and ask yourself, what is it that this is going to bring me? What is the puzzle piece that it's offering me? Sometimes it's not the most obvious thing. Now, with that Neptune in that house of communication, of course, the other part of this is to visualize the things that you want, to send that message out to the universe, to say, these are my goals, these are the things on my bucket list, these are the things that I want to explore, going forward. Now, where you're doing the sextile to that Saturn is in your house of money and stuff. And so this says that you can accumulate now. And that is, you can accumulate the things that you need to go do these wonderful things. And so sometimes you can find that, like, maybe you want to go camping and you don't have a sleeping bag, but everybody goes camping, and so you have plenty of equipment you can borrow. Or that as you say to the universe that you want to maybe travel, that the universe starts to offer you more opportunities for making money, or other opportunities maybe to sell things that you have to facilitate this dream. So it is to look at that practical side, but also realize that those resources are available, and that sometimes they just take a little bit of creative thought to put that puzzle together. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, There are some remarkable things going on here because, one, there is a square between Venus and Saturn, and Venus is in that house, and it's conjunct Uranus. And so that means that you could meet somebody and have some real sparks happen, that somehow you can come together with somebody that you wouldn't have met otherwise and really make a connection. This also says, because it's a Venus conjunct Uranus, that maybe this person's quite different in appearance or some aspect of them that you weren't expecting in your future love. You know, that maybe they come from a different place, maybe they're interested in different things, maybe they are opposite to you politically, but there's still some harmony that you're finding, and so you're kind of bridging the gap. You're finding the peace between the two sides. So there's really good energy here. So if you're looking for new love, this is a time to go out and meet new people. And then when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon is making a sextile to Saturn. And so there is that opportunity for the two of you to go behind closed doors and have a more intimate relationship. This is something that you might need to suggest, that you might need to initiate, because you're the one doing this sextile. And so you want to start this process, and then things can go very well. Now, when it comes to home and family, there's some interesting energy here because Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn. However, Mars is in that house. So therefore, there's a lot of activity, but there maybe is some contentions, or people are not coming together in a harmonious fashion. Or technically, they're not even coming together in an inharmonious fashion. They're not coming together at all. And that might mean that even though you're all under the same roof, you're never at home at the same time, or that there's construction going on, and so there's a sense of disorder or a little bit of chaos. There does seem to be a disconnect happening, and so maybe you're traveling, and so you're not home at all. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn in your house of money, plus Uranus in your house of risky investments. So as usual, you are doing some very strong money opportunities. Now, Saturn is going to be in your money house until around February or March of next year. And so you have now limited time to activate this Saturn if you haven't already. And Saturn says become an expert at your money, at your personal finances. And so that might mean, learning how to do budget, learning how to take a little bit of money and grow it into more money, and learning how to do basic money things like investing or protecting your money, or looking at all of the different ways that there are to make money, especially these days. And then the Uranus is still some of the long shots that are out there. And this, of course, is by no means to say that you should be rolling the dice on anything you can afford to lose, because Uranus is volatile enough, and then it's in a house of risky investments. But occasionally making those small wagers could be beneficial. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, the Sun is making a semi-sextile to Uranus, and this indicates that there is some opportunities, but there's some sort of paperwork or like little things that you have to do that might be tedious or irritating in some way, and those things are the things that lead to money. So this might be completing an application, digging up the email to respond to someone, or just finding a box to put the item in that you're shipping. Just the small things are what need to happen, and that facilitates the money coming in. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be a paycheck, you have aspects with the co-rulers, and that means that Mars is making a semi-sextile to Uranus, and Saturn's making a semi-sextile to Pluto. So you have two semi-sextiles, which is more than you usually have, but it is a semi-sextile in both directions. And so this is, again, that similar energy of you have to do the small things to get the bigger reward. That is that you've got to take the extra steps, and there are steps that you may not want to do. And maybe that's just sitting down with your boss and, trying to catch your boss and get it scheduled, and then having to say, look, I need a raise. It's possible, too, that asking for a raise right now is going to bring you a smaller raise than you wanted. Maybe this is going to be a stepping stone promotion. You don't quite get the director position. Maybe you just get assistant director, something like that. So you could wait until this lines up better. However, because you're doing the 2 semi-sextiles, it may be worth broaching this even though you feel like it's not something you exactly want to do, because there could be some rewards from this. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is making a conjunction with Uranus. Uranus and Venus are both in this house of risky investments, and so the energy is quite good right now. Now, that all said, of course, please be careful. So this is not a time to be just, throwing your rent money at some sort of altcoin or something like that. However, it is time to be looking very seriously at something that maybe you've been working on for a while, like buying a business. This could be a good time to launch your video course or your podcast, something that's going to make you money in the future. Or if you've been working on spec, doing something to get a job, this is a time to roll the dice in that fashion and say, here's my art portfolio, or here are the websites I've already built, and to get the job. Now, if this is something where you are investing in something that's highly leveraged or time sensitive, do be careful, because Uranus is quite volatile, which means you could have a big win, but also a big loss. And that was what they kind of balance each other out. So if you're going off to gamble or something and you do make a win, run out the door at that moment, because you don't want to then give that winnings back to the casino, because Uranus turns the tables on you. So as always, do be careful with risky investments. As a person who does a lot of things, used to do a lot of things on spec, where you have to prove what you can do. I mean, in a sense, a YouTube channel is that, where you are proving what you can do to an audience, and as the audience slowly grows, then you get the rewards from that. So this would count as a risky investment because you're risking your time and energy. So long story short, as a person who does this, there are some rewards in doing this, but it takes perseverance, etc. And with it, Venus, Uranus, you're looking for something that's quicker. And so you want to then recognize that you're in it for the long haul, that while this energy is good and it's likely you'll make more money over the next 2 weeks, this is not something where you want to bet the farm on. Okay, Aquarius, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of friendships, community, also technology and the future. And so this is where the maximum energy is, that you can expand your circle of friends, connect and reconnect with friends from the past. You can get involved in organizations, find supportive groups around you. And as well as this is a time to look at what you want to do in the future, where you want to put yourself. And you might be, working on your technology, that is working on your tech skills, or upgrading your technology. And so this is where we see the maximum amount of energy. Now, where we see that square to Neptune is in your house of money. And so this is an interesting connection, because it's suggesting that you balance the energy between the material world and the spiritual world, and that these two are not separate. They are connected because we're in bodies. And so that is, as you do spiritual things, you can receive more resources, more money. But also, though, the other side of that is, as you get bogged down in the stuff of things, it can cause you to lose a little bit of connection spiritually. And so there's a mindfulness that is needed here. And so that is, maybe on the technology side, it's the easiest to see, where you are saying that, all right, I'm going to buy all of this technology, all these devices and things like that. But you have to process and get rid of maybe the old stuff, and to find that balance. Or maybe it is about spending a lot of times with groups, but then you have to retreat and have some solitary time as well, so that you can process what's been happening. So it is about that balance between the material and physical with the spiritual. Now, where we see that sextile to Saturn is in your first house of confidence. And so that is that you have the opportunity to recognize that you can do this, that all of the things that are coming up in your life, yeah, even if they're brand new, you've done something maybe related to it or like that thing. And so you can draw from your own experience and your own energy. Now, it also says that if you will do some discipline and really apply yourself, you can achieve what you want. And so as you're looking at the future and what it is you want to do, recognize that you have the ability. If you didn't have the ability, you wouldn't have an interest in doing it. And then second is that you do still need to apply yourself. Having the ability to do something doesn't mean you have mastery of it. And so it still requires practice, it still requires planning, and then you can achieve it. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's not making an aspect to Uranus, and Mercury is 0 degrees. So something brand new is happening in that area, but it may not be yet formed enough for you to make a connection. And so perhaps this is you've decided to go on a new dating platform, or maybe you're deciding to date some different type of person entirely, or maybe you're changing your attitudes about dating. So there's something new that's happening. I think this energy is going to line up very nicely in the future, but right now, because it's not lined up, it's more in that conceptual phase. And so do the visualization and the prayer and affirmations, and then later you may find that some of the new people you met for friendship are interested in some, like dating and things like that. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun is making a semi-sextile to that Uranus, and that means that you are kind of in a little bit of a growth period where maybe there's something that your partner's been doing that's irritating you, and you need to talk about it. You need to say, this bugs me when you do it, so that you two can talk it out and see if there is something that the other person can do differently, or if there's some sort of shift that you need to make where you realize that this thing irritates you because it reminds you of a past relationship or something that happened in childhood, or that there is some sort of growth that can happen because you discuss it. And if you do, you can become closer to your partner during this period. Now, when it comes to home and family, there's a lot of activity going on because Venus is conjunct Uranus, and they're both in that 4th house sitting together. So there is some sort of happy chaos going on at home. And that might mean that there are people visiting, maybe kids are home from school, and possibly some renovations are going on in the home, or maybe you're packing up for a move, maybe you're unpacking from a recent move. So there's a lot of new energy and a little bit of chaos going on, but it looks like it's joyful chaos. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune, which we were talking about making that spiritual connection and understanding that because you're in a physical body, you are having a physical experience as well as a spiritual experience. And then also it pulls money from that Jupiter in your house of communication. And so there is something here about what you're communicating both to more than both, to yourself, to other people in the world, and also to the universe. And so you have an opportunity to be co-creating with the universe. And that's what co-creating means, is that you are saying to the universe, this is the direction I want to go, or this is the destination I want to have. And then the universe may adjust your path or your route to that through, different nudges or obstacles or things like that. And so what happens is that you pick up your lessons along the way. So rather than seeing the universe put obstacles in front of you and feel frustrated, look at that as saying, oh, the universe wants me to adjust my course. And that's not suggesting necessarily that the universe is saying you shouldn't go for this goal. The universe is just suggesting that a different route is better. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune. Now, that Mercury is at 0, so something brand new must be happening. This could be a new investment, or maybe you're launching a new product or service, but there is an opportunity to make more money than usual from your business or investments, and so you might want to look at what you can do that is new. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be a paycheck, while Jupiter is not making an aspect to Neptune, the full moon is there. So this is a very good time for you to connect with someone about how you can make more money in your career. So you might be negotiating for a higher salary with this business, or maybe you are looking for a new job and can negotiate for more. Maybe there's some opportunity to get a bonus or, a higher commission rate. But this is a time where that maximum energy is right there. So this is something you do. Okay, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. Now, the Mercury's at 0, it's in that house, so there's some new investment that you might get super excited about. And I'm going to say that this is a sextile. It's not the strongest of aspects, but it is a positive aspect. So we're seeing some possibilities here. Because it's at 0, you need to do a lot of work exploring what this is, figuring out how it works, finding out if this is the direction you want to go. And as always, with risky investments, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. That is what a traditional investment is for. Like with a traditional investment, you can take the chances with your nest egg, with your real money. But with a risky investment, this is more like rolling the dice. So you do want to be more careful. Now, if this is something that you're doing that is more about doing something on spec, which we see in that risky investments / creative projects, so like doing your art portfolio so that then you could get a design job, or you are, maybe just doing a comic book, and so then you have to launch the comic book and develop a following and stuff like that. This Mercury at 0 says that something new has occurred to you, and maybe this is a new way to present your material, or this is a new idea that you want to work on, and so there are some real possibilities here. Okay, Pisces, you guys are doing this full moon lighting up your house of career and also reputation. And so this is your opportunity to be a little bit more famous if that's what you're looking for. This is also very helpful if you want to get a new job, if you want to get ahead in your career, if you are promoting your business or your products, services, etc. So this is a time where you are more seen because the moon is elevated, and so all eyes are up on what you're doing. And so that's why this is a very good 2 weeks for you. Now, where you're doing the square to Neptune is about where you should be fighting for something that you want or letting it go. So this is a time where you have to realize if you are fighting to keep a job that you don't really like, maybe it would be better to be, doing your resume and looking for something else. Or perhaps you are needing to let go of a job that has been maybe draining for you, not paying you what you're worth, and really set yourself in motion to find something else to do or to get your business off the ground. So the Neptune here, it's a very interesting energy because it's in your own sign. It's been there for a while. So you know this energy very well. And it's your ruler. It's your planetary ruler. So you know this energy very well. But sometimes maybe you are not utilizing it. And it is to recognize what's in your control and what's out of your control. To also recognize that you can transcend just the people that you see around you and be able to talk to the much greater amount of people, and that is that you can send a message through that spiritual plane to reach the hiring managers that you want, to find the job that you want, or to reach the audience that you want. So you want to activate that spiritual message board that Neptune in your first house affords. Now, where we see that sextile to Saturn is in your house of spirituality. And so that does say, do the practical spiritual things. So that is the affirmations, do the goal board, light candles, do the feng shui cures, do those spiritual things that may not feel like they have a value in the business world, but are crucial for getting you an audience in this very, very noisy sort of marketplace. And so this is what can make you stand out, because you are reaching out your soul to another person's soul and making a connection where a connection should be. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon is making a square to Neptune, and this is one of the best aspects for meeting someone new. The moon is elevated, you're easy to see, and if you send out that spiritual message, you can make a connection with somebody who is really wants to connect with you. And so you could find somebody where your charts connect, etc. And someday I'll have to do a video on this, but the reason two people come together is they have chart connections. And so if you meet a bunch of people and there's no connection, that's just because your charts aren't lining up. And so just go meet more people. You will find somebody. And when the charts line up, that's when you can have that potentially happy relationship. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. Now, it's super interesting because Mercury is at 0 degrees. And so that means that there's something new in the relationship. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to home and family, because that energy is very similar. So, but this is like, do something new together. Find something new about the relationship that you love about each other. Do something where you're exploring something new together. And so that not one of you is leading, but both of you are kind of feeling your way. And I think that you're going to find that you get closer as a couple. Now, when it comes to home and family, like I already hinted, that Mercury at 0 is in that house. And so that says there's something new going on at home. And that might be that maybe you are now in a new home, or you are in the process of moving. Maybe you're getting new neighbors, or maybe you are getting roommates. So there's something new going on at home. And if there isn't, there needs to be. And that is to change something, to make something different. This is a sextile. It's an opportunity. And so it's time to do something different at home. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars in your house of money. Yay! So plus you've got that moon that's elevated and making you easy to see. And so money opportunities are very strong right now. That means you do want to actively work on these, because that's where you can get the payday. And so if you have a business you've been kind of dabbling with, time to lean in and work on that. If you're trying to sell something, now's the time to do both the marketing and advertising, but also the visualization of finding the buyer. And so working on this can really help right now, because this is a strong placement for your money planet. Mars is making a semi-sextile to Venus, and this means that the payday is there, but you need to do the little things, the irritating things, those things that kind of feel like they slow you down, and that's what's going to bring you the money. And maybe this is just going through your processes and seeing what you can automate, and taking the time to automate something or streamline a procedure. Those things take time, but once you have it in place, then things go more smoothly. And so this works both for your investments, like having how you make decisions, automating that, or maybe learning one of those trading bots, or learning somebody's financial system where they're picking stocks for you, but you need to learn the software. So doing those things will help you make more money over the next 2 weeks. When it comes to money derived from career, which would be getting a paycheck, Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn. And so even though we see this moon up in your house of career, whatever you're doing to make more money right now is happening probably outside the 2-week period. So that means you could get the raise, but you get the payday, the actual money, later. Or you are, you get told that, next month we'll talk about your raise. Next month we'll talk about your promotion. And so you get put off a little bit. That's okay, because, with this chart, which is quite good for money, you just might want to look at other sources of income rather than just the job, since that's the energy that's not lining up this time. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or very time sensitive. The moon is not making an aspect to Mars. So again, we're seeing that to make more money, we're looking more at you having your own business or doing traditional investments or doing what could be considered a risky investment, but doing it in a traditional way. And that would be highly diversified and not leveraged, not time sensitive, and maybe something like a dollar cost averaging or something like that, where you're putting in a small amount every single week, and just, when it goes down, you get more shares, and when it goes up, you get less shares, and it all averages out. And so that makes it fall in that traditional investing category. If you are working on something on spec, this may not be exactly the time to launch. You might want to wait just a little bit longer, maybe get the final touches on it, maybe finish your website, or however you're going to announce this. So because the energy is not quite lined up yet, but it does, everything here with that Mars in that house of money and the moon elevated does say continue to work on this. That payday will be coming around at some point. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.